Recorder and Ted. Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. You want to take roll, please?
Sure. Just a second. Let me move that. You probably see the, oh, there we go. All right. All right. Ted Dockery is not yet present. He's going to join us in progress. Jim Schutz.
Present.
Peter Connor is not present tonight. Nate Day.
Present.
Ella Donner.
Present.
Ken Markart.
Present.
Dan Ramsey.
Here.
Harry Schiffner.
Here.
Dana Minogue also indicated she's not available to join us tonight from the school district. Katie Nelson.
Here.
So I think that was 7 present. We certainly have a quorum.
Okay,
And
very
Katie,
good.
we were just questioning, you're definitely on the committee, right? And not a different alder? Okay,
I think so. Yeah, I was.
you're on the
told
committee
it's
list,
not,
so that's
and
what we
then
were going
it's- Yeah, I'm on the list.
by. Okay,
I know.
Thanks for clearing that. There was a little confusion. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're so welcome. Oh,
Okay, the first item of business is the election of officers, a chair and a vice chair. Do we have any nominations for chair? Is anybody interested in being chair? Or do we have any nominations? No nominations. Anybody interested? I'd be willing to do it again if no one is interested.
I'd like to nominate Dan Ramsey here.
I will second it.
Okay, all in favor of that signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, now we need a vice chair. Is anyone interested in being a vice chair? No takers on that one either. So I will nominate Katie Nelson to be vice chair.
I will accept that nomination.
All right, do we have a second for that one?
Second.
technically
Okay,
you should ask if there's any other nominations, but
Oh, again, it is a motion form, so. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Katie as vice chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right,
you're
Katie.
doing that in motion form, you said, Dan?
Yeah, it was kind of done in motion form. However you want to put it in the minutes. It's
I'll-
Katie
I'll-
as vice chair
My
and
usual
myself
way,
as chair.
okay.
Okay, our next item is approval of the minutes for the May 26th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? And are there any questions or changes that need to be made? If there are no questions, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve them.
Jim moves approval. Is there a second?
This is Katie, I'll second.
Katie seconds. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed, minutes are approved. Our discussion action items, number 1, pedestrian and bicyclist safety along Elmwood and Hubbard Avenues between Parmenter and Park Streets. And I understand we have a presentation.
Yeah, and Bihi, I gave you permission to share your screen as well. I just want to introduce you quickly for those of you who haven't yet met him. We had an intern this year. He goes by Bihi, and he's a graduate student at UW-Madison, as you saw in your memo that he wrote, and he is going to go through a short presentation and wrap up with his findings and our recommendations for how to proceed with the Elmwood bike ped safety issue.
Very
Hello,
good. Thank you,
everyone. Can I start?
Can you get a little closer to the mic? I think it's hard to hear you.
Mm. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is P. Abdullahi. I'm an international student from Ethiopia, currently pursuing my master's degree in UW-Madison in urban planning. I'm also doing my internship program at the city of Middleton. So today I would like to share with you tactical urbanism case studies. The main purpose of these case studies, there are 4 case studies, and the main purpose is to make sure to improve the safety of pedestrians, bicyclists, as well as to improve the visibility of the drivers. So can you see my slide first? Is it visible to all of you?
Yes.
Okay. So the first case study that I would like to share with you is called Intersection Through Pavement Green Marking. And this case study was conducted in Portland, Oregon. So the main purpose of this case study.
I'm actually not
Excuse-
able to see the screen.
Sorry.
Yep. Yep, we're not, you're not, your screen isn't being shared.
Okay. Oh. So, okay.
Maybe Mark, you need to stop sharing.
Sure. Okay, okay, I will stop and then I'll share again.
Looks like Mark stepped away.
How about now? I shared, but I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if Mark needs to stop sharing.
You
'cause it
should all
says-
have options. You can say view options at the very top and you can select which screen to view. Just need to select Bees.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Thanks, Dominic. Yeah.
Okay, is it visible to all of you?
No.
No?
So, yeah, if you
Yes.
guys go to the top where it says you are viewing Mark Opitz's screen, right next to it, it says view options. Click on that. And then if you go down, you have the option of Edie's or Mark.
Say that again? Go to where?
On the very top, there's like a green or indicate, well,
Okay.
yep, bar, and it says view options in black and white. And there's a little drop down arrow. Click on that, and then you can switch over to Behe's screen.
View options. Share contact, view options.
Here, I'll take a screenshot and share it in the chat, maybe. Oh, maybe, do we have chat options?
All right, well, I'll follow along on my laptop. I've got it on my laptop.
Okay, Dan, under view options, do you see the shared screens section?
I don't see, I can't find the view options.
What are you looking for?
I'm trying to change so I can see Bimi's screen instead of seeing what you got up.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had stepped away to use the restroom quickly. So I'm not sure what you're,
Maybe, Mark, can you stop sharing?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you haven't been stuck for a couple minutes. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, then, okay, I'll continue. So the first case study that I would like to share with you is called Intersection Through Pavement Green Marking. And this case study was conducted in Portland City, Oregon. So the main purpose of this case study was to improve the driver's visibility at the cross section when the bicyclists are crossing in the cross section. And the other purpose of this was also to show the presence of green marking at the crossing will to alter the motorist yielding behavior towards bicyclists when the bicycle is crossing at the intersection. The design process of this case study, the authors of this paper conducted 3 risk experiments and 3 similar intersections, and then they evaluated when before they installed a pavement marker at the intersection and after they installed pavement marking at the intersections. They've also recorded 48 hours of video data and then analyzed that data. There was 1,840 bicycle crossing events all of the three intersections were carried out by 2,219 bicyclists. 897 events were carried out before the implementation of pavement marking at the cross section, at the intersections, whereas 943 events were carried out after the implementation of pavement marking at the cross sections. So the result shows that the rates of motorists, the rates of drivers yielding towards bicyclists at the cross bike, at the intersections, improved after they implemented cross bike green marking at the intersections. And the first intersection case study shows that the drivers yielding towards the bicyclist near at the cross bike improved from 48% to 91%, whereas the drivers, the motorists yielding towards the bicyclist from far side improved from 61 to 95. The second intersection result shows that also the motorists yielding towards the bicyclist at the cross bike intersection at the near side improved from 21% to 41%, whereas the drivers yielding from far side of the intersection improved from 11% to 33%. The third the number 3 intersection experiment also shows similar things. Near side yielding 38% to 77%, far side yielding 36% to 82%. So let me show you this in visual. This is the first intersections. This is before the installment of green bike cross markings. So there's no green bike cross markings at this intersection, but this is before they installed the green pavement markings. And the second one shows that there's a green bike cross markings. So going back to the results, like after they install the green bike markings, the motorists yielding to bicycles improves, and this is the numbers. This is the results. So the second intersection also shows the similars. In the beginning, this is the second intersections. In the intersection, there's not any crosswalk as well as cross bike. And after they installed, and the third intersection also shows similar results, which means like installing green bike cross pavement markings improves the feasibility of the drivers as well as the safety of the bicyclists. So this is what the case study one is about: improving the safety of the pedestrians and improving the visibility of the drivers after they install the cross bike pavement marking on the intersection. So moving to the second case study, this case study was installed at the intersection of a residential intersection. So this is a temporary traffic circle. The material of this temporary traffic circle is bolted down rubber curb stop, and also 4 pieces of type 1 park radius with traffic circle attached. So this is a temporary circle installed at the intersection in neighborhood in this neighborhood. So this intersection was also installed in the city of Palo Alto, California. As you see here, you will see another sign. This sign also was installed at the corner side of the street, and the main purpose of this sign is to state the name of the project as well as the email of the project. So the purpose is to invite people to put to tell their opinions about the intersection, so the city can study the public opinions. And you will see here bikers. These are young children biking around because at this intersection, 30 to 40% of the traffic mode is bike. The bike share mode at this intersection is from 30% to 40%, and the most of these bikers are young children who travel to school from their homes. So the context of this intersection was to provide much needed traffic calming at the intersection because there are a lot of bikers who are mostly students from the neighborhood, and the design process is to respond to the community concern about the traffic safety as well as their children's safety at the intersection. So the city of Palo Alto decided to initiate a project called Traffic Safety Pilot Project. And the reason they include pilot is the city felt a pilot may be a more effective way to get a public opinion. So I've talked about the materials of the traffic circle. I want to share with you what was the result after they installed this temporary traffic circle at the intersection of a neighborhood avenue. The result shows that the city of Palo Alto conducted 2 surveys. Survey 1, the result shows that 69 positive comments about the traffic circle and 68 negative comments asking the city to consider the 4-way stop at the intersection, because these people told like this 4-way stop is distracting the drivers. So the city decided to remove these stop signs altogether, and the city left the traffic follow freely at the intersections for a period of 6 months. And after 6 months, the city of Palo Alto conducted another survey to make sure if this temporary traffic circle at the intersection of a neighborhood avenue did really improve the safety of the pedestrians as well as the safety of the bicyclists, and also did this temporary traffic circle answer the concern, respond to the concern of the community. So the second survey shows that the process of testing this traffic project has been successful for the city of Palo Alto, and they were considering to upgrade this traffic circle to a permanent one. So moving to the third case study. This third case study is called protected intersections. This protected intersection was also installed in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The material of these protected intersections are insulation panels painted gray color in order to look like a concrete card, as well as there is a surface treatment on the intersections, yellow arrows, chalk yellow arrows, and these yellow arrows actually help the bikers to move around this corner refuge. And as you see here, there is a high visible crosswalk. These are all helping the pedestrians as well as the drivers' visibility. So comparing the conventional intersection and the protected intersections. As you see, the first picture, this driver cannot see this bicyclist because conventional intersection, if you look at here, there is a bike rider. So the bike rider is hidden, and the driver cannot see actually the bike riders when the driver is turning right. But when you come to the protected intersection, it shows that the driver can see the bike rider because the bike rider is visible to the driver when the driver is turning right. So, which basically means the protected intersection improves the visibility of the driver and also improves the safety of the bikers crossing at the intersection. So coming to the result shows that this one-day demonstration project at the intersection called protected intersection allowed the allowed residents to experience and learn about the intersection. And after the residents learned this about the intersection, residents helped create a movement to upgrade this temporary protected intersection into a permanent one. Okay, moving to case study 4. This case study 4 was a tactical urbanism called a curb extension, and this curb extension was implemented in Cox Avenue, city of Asheville, North Carolina. And the purpose was when the North Carolina Department of Transportation start to test infrastructure treatments that would calm the traffic as well as improve the safety of pedestrians and the bicyclists. So the difference of these curb extensions, because the city of Asheville installed this curb extension all of the avenue, all of Cox Avenue, as you see. So the North Carolina Transportation Department started to study after the installation of this curb extension, and this is how they do it, because like they painted a gray color paint, because the gray color somehow look like a concrete car. And the result they found, they shared with us, because they show that before the implementation of this curb extension, the risk of pedestrian fatality was more than 35% before the implementation of these curb extensions. But after they implemented the curb extension at the Cox Avenue, the risk of pedestrian fatality dropped almost less than 5%, which is in favor of the project. The North Carolina Transportation Department also did. The original speed limit of the avenue was 35 miles per hour, but they reduced from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour in order to make sure the safety of the pedestrians. And as you see the second image, it shows that when the speed limit was 35 miles per hour, the pedestrian hit by the vehicle, the rate was 68%, which was low. But after they reduced it to 25 miles per hour, the safety increased from 68% to 89%. And the North Carolina Traffic Transportation Department also conducted a survey to ask the public their opinions. So they asked these questions, and the first question is, if you are riding a bicycle or walking today at Cox Avenue, how has the project impacted and how safe you feel traveling along the Cox Avenue? So the response was 248 people responded. Among these 248, 32.7% they felt much safer after the implementation of curb extension, and 17.7 somewhat safer. This number, this big number, actually 26.2, the reply is like not applicable because they didn't bike or walk in that day. So, and 14.9, no impact. So these results actually favors the project. The second question was about the drivers and how they feel about when they are driving on Cox Avenue. And the question is, if you are driving on a Cox Avenue today, how has the project impacted your drive time? Faster, people who respond faster, 248 respond, people who respond faster was actually negligible because the reply is very less. No impact, 87.9% said no impact. Pre-delays, 23%. 13.3% significant delay. 25% they were not applicable. So it seems that the result also favors this project. And this is the last case that I would like to present with you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any question, you can ask me.
Thank you, Vihi. Do we have any questions? Does this committee have any questions on anything?
Yeah,
That's
Bihi,
just-
do you have any costs associated with any of those case studies?
Not yet, but my second step is to prepare the costs associated with this one.
Thanks.
I would just add that from a planning staff standpoint, when he gave us this presentation, we gravitated to option 2, which is the traffic circle option, which I think has had some support in the neighborhood as well. So I would just add that as our internal preference.
Mark, this is Katie. Bihi, thank you so much for that. That was a really great presentation. Mark, is it the Minneapolis example that you're thinking of?
So sorry, can you repeat that?
I think it was Palo Alto, I think is,
Oh, with the temporary circle, or did they just make it permanent after?
As the paper says that there were movement to upgrade the protected intersection into a permanent one. They didn't say like they did it, but there were movement, and the neighbors also took part of that movement to upgrade to a permanent one.
I think
Yeah.
we're, can you pull up case study number 2, please, Bihi? There you go, right? All right. And then the next slide, please.
And then this is the one where they took the stop signs away completely and then just used the circle.
Right.
This one.
Mhm.
Did they take the stop signs away before they tested the circle, or they put the circle down and tested it for a while, took the stop signs out and tested it again?
So after the first survey, there were negative comments about the signs. So the city decided to take all the signs away and to let the traffic follow freely at the intersection.
Okay.
I imagine that just took some of the confusion away to have the stop signs gone. I also really like, I'm sorry to be speaking out of turn if I am.
Go ahead,
I
Katie.
really like the curb extension idea from Asheville. When I think about, and of course, I'm thinking about my street, which is Park Street. Our street was used to have parking on it, and then it was taken away to build the bike lane. But one of the side effects of that is that when the road is wider, my street gets quite busy, and when it's wider, people think they can drive faster on it. We've kind of regularly seen some 50 mile an hour, and the speed limit is 25 on my road. So this idea is sort of intriguing to me, that the bikes could ride on that painted surface. It would be a slowing technique for traffic.
Yeah, definitely.
And kind of serve both purposes. Anyway, that intrigued me a lot. And it seems like that would be a fairly negligible cost, except for the paint, but maybe I'm wrong.
This reminds me of that road next to DSW. I don't know what it's called, but I think the Foundry's on there.
That's
Mhm,
Market Street.
Market.
mhm.
Not the same treatments, but similar in that there's the parallel parking in the spaces for cars to pull off.
So the question here is, so Mark, for the Elmwood Hubbard Avenue area, because this is what we're discussing at this point,
Mhm.
staff suggestion is one of these temporary traffic circles to put where?
Well, I think you've been talking about the Elmwood, and I always forget if it's Bristol or Middleton.
That was my question. Is it Bristol or Middleton?
I have custodial staff here, just a second.
think it's,
Oh, thank you.
I think it's Bristol.
Okay,
Bristol, it's where, I think it's where the four-way stop
you
is.
said that, yeah, that's Bristol.
Yeah,
So with this portable traffic circle, how does the you put it out, you do a survey with the neighborhood after a period of time that it's been in to see if there's been some kind of measurable results from it? I guess my point is here, as we're discussing this, we're looking at redoing Elmwood in 23 and 24. So if we were going to put in some kind of test thing, we'd want to do it now so that whatever test there was, we would have some kind of results when we went to do design work for redoing the road.
Yeah, it's meant to be a short-term trial. You know, that's the whole point here is, and to do it soon.
Okay.
You know, you get this summer. So, and Behe was going to come up with some estimates. We think this is actually a low-cost way. The traffic circles is a pretty low-cost way to experiment with this approach.
Do you- oh,
Go ahead.
do you wonder with these barricades, and it looks like a construction site, and is that influencing traffic flow or the response of the residents, that it looks like there's permanently some construction going on? Now, I know there are companies that make these mini traffic circles or many roundabouts that are portable. And what I'm wondering is if the city was to look into the cost of something like that, maybe you try it at Elmwood and Bristol, and then possibly try it at another location.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jim. And that's what I was thinking too, that if we went ahead with this as a test area, that then we could reuse it and put it other places to see how it works. So I'm in total agreement with what you're saying there, Jim. That makes a lot of sense.
This is Katie again. Would the Palo Alto people be willing to share, or is it simple enough to just put a little survey together? Is that something we need to do before and after we try this? A survey for the pedestrians and for the or cyclists and for the cars? To know whether it's worth it or not? Or do we just take the test results from Palo Alto and say, this worked, and I think we'd like to try this here?
We also have local examples in Madison, of course, where some traffic circles have been installed. So it wouldn't be hard to get some other data as well. But right now, the concern is we want to have some results, so show some results. Behe is here through August, and we would like to address the neighbors' concerns as quickly as possible. And I think we can do this cost effectively.
Yeah, agreed. Good.
You know, the other thing,
Go ahead.
the other thing in that picture, you notice those crosswalks are painted in yellow. And that really sticks out on that picture versus having white. You know, people, when you look at yellow, you look at a caution area. When you look at white, it's just some informational thing to keep in your lane. But, you know, maybe the city should start looking at painting the stop signs, that, you know, the stop bars on the stop sign, the crosswalk, start painting them yellow. I mean, this kind of addresses what's going on up at around the Sauk Trail School as well, that, you know, a driver's not paying much attention, but if he starts seeing some yellow out there, maybe that'll tweak his mind. And the second thing is these intersections are nice, but another issue on those streets is the speed in between the stop signs, and none of this has really been addressed. You know, like I say, I go back to South Avenue and these long draws of over several thousand feet, there's nothing to slow down the traffic.
Nate, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just was listening to Jim before, and I totally agree that the orange kind of throws me off too, because I always see that as a construction zone, and it shouldn't be seen as a construction zone. It should maybe not include the orange color. And then as for the other comment that I think it was Kenneth made about the crosswalks, the yellow is good too, but it doesn't seem traditional. In my opinion, I think the traditional white, or using that green color to indicate a bike ped area would probably be more appropriate. But just a couple thoughts there.
If you go to Mount Horeb and look, Mount Horeb does a really good job of controlling traffic for pedestrian crossings, and theirs are in red. They're red brick, but if there's something that down the road, you can see this from a distance. And color changes, people recognize that more. So, I mean, maybe if anybody approached Mount Horeb and see how they have addressed it. I know they got some pretty strict, fines for issues on crosswalks, but those crosswalks in that town, particularly in that main street, really stick out.
I would like to answer Nate's question about the orange color. That these like type 1 barricades with the traffic circle. What they did was they used it as temporary, and then they replaced it with delineators. Did you get my
With what? What did they replace it with? I didn't understand.
Delineators.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still not getting it.
Okay, I will find they actually use this the barricades and traffic circle and this yellow color temporarily, and then they replace it into traffic the red tube called delineator. I'm sorry, my pronunciation.
The red,
No problem.
Okay, I will find the picture and then I'll share with you.
While you're looking for that, Dominic, I see that you have your hand up. Would you like to make a quick comment?
Yes, please. I just wanted to address the concern or the question regarding scope and location, as well as referencing the comments about long uninterrupted runs. The NTM fleet that our neighborhood submitted requested that the intersections at Middleton, Bristol, as well as the uncontrolled pedestrian crosswalk be considered. Currently, the pedestrian crosswalk and Middleton Street, Elmwood, are uncontrolled, and there is concern in those areas as well as the Bristol Street intersection. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my understanding, there's a concern also maybe extending this to Hubbard, the same type of concerns.
Yes, that's correct. We tried to keep scope as narrow as possible, but certainly the hope was that we could gather learnings through this NTMP and potentially extend those learnings throughout historic Middleton Station. Hubbard has similar traffic data as far as I'm aware in terms of speeds and volumes.
One of the things is that as we do some of these, and this is why we continue to work on complete streets and try to change our streets, traffic isn't necessarily just an individual street issue. It's a neighborhood issue, because one of the things we want to be careful of is that we don't move a problem just from one street to the next street into the neighborhood. So I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that Hubbard has some of the same issues. We really have to, when we're looking and trying some of these different things, we have to look at entire neighborhoods and how do we do this holistically, so we just don't kind of switch the problem to another location. Were you able to find that, the answer for Nate V?
Oh, okay, I was gonna share with you.
I believe BE is
Yeah,
referencing
this one.
delineators.
Can you see this one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one I was reading.
Oh, like
So
a
they-
post.
So they took away what they did is they started with the barricades with the yellow light, and then they transferred to those posts.
Yeah, yes, that's what
Okay.
I want.
Okay, I understand.
Hey, do you ever see examples with like green posts or white posts? I mean, why still that orange color that indicates a construction zone?
I didn't see any thing about this green color. Why did they put it? But it didn't. They didn't mention in the paper. So
Okay. Just wondered if you saw anything. No big deal.
Do those, my question would be, do those red or orange posts, do they stay then once that becomes a permanent traffic circle? Do those stay?
no. Actually, these traffic circle as well as these barricades, they use temporarily and then
Yeah.
they remove it and replace it to the traffic delineators, the one I showed you.
Okay.
Yeah. This
And
one.
then are those permanent? What you have on the screen, are those permanent?
Like before they upgrade it, they use these delineators as temporary for a like long period. But like I have to check again. I'm not sure
Okay.
if they are still using it.
All right, very good. Thank you. Katie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm looking at the photo that's up on our screen now, and the circle looks, maybe it's the perspective of the photo, but it looks small enough that a car could still go through too quickly. Is there any variation on the required size of such a circle?
Well, according to neighborhood traffic management program, this is actually, I took this one as a sample, but when we are installing any temporary measurements, we have, the city has neighborhood traffic management programs, and in that program, the book explains how to install round apples at Elmwood intersections. So I think we will follow the neighborhood traffic management program because the city has that. The city told us to follow this book.
Thank you.
So
So,
Mark,
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry, did somebody have a?
No, that was me. I was going to just suggest a course of action to move this along. So,
Yeah, that's what.
yep, I know you, Dan. So I think if you are comfortable with the approach with the traffic circle, recognizing that there's still some unknowns in terms of cost and as Katie noted, the size, things like that, we could work we as staff with BHE could work to come up with an implementation plan, working with Public Works, of course, that's their jurisdiction. We just wanted to get your blessing in terms of if you think this was a good first step to try and address some of the concerns. As Dominic noted, this is not just one intersection along Elmwood. There's several two intersections and then the mid-block crosswalk. But we have to start somewhere. So any direction you can provide would be helpful.
And this can be moved to each intersection to see how it would work. Okay. I would be in favor of giving the staff direction to move in that, to get us started in that way. Does anybody else have an opinion, or would anybody like to make a motion to that effect?
I would like to make a motion that the city looks at the mini traffic circle, but take into consideration portability and that it does not appear to be like a construction site.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jim. Is there a second to Jim's motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nate. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more comments?
I would simply note that you have another committee member present. Tad Dockery is present, and he can maybe introduce himself later, but I just wanted you to know that he was here.
Welcome, Tad. Good to have you. If there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor of Jim's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along, or we'll take a brief sideways step and just welcome Tad Dockery to the committee. It's a pleasure having you, Tad. My name's Dan Ramsey. I'm the District 7 Alder, and I represent Plan Commission. Would everybody else just introduce themselves to Tad real quick, please? Could we get Jim? Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, name is Jim Schutz, live on North Avenue, have lived here for 46 years.
Ken? Ken, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I'm a lifelong resident of Middleton, and I'm the liaison for the Commission on Aging.
Thank you. Ella?
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm going to be a senior at Middleton High School, and I do track, cross country, and mountain bike race.
Katie?
Hi, Tad. Welcome. I'm Katie Nelson. I'm an alder for District 3.
Carrie?
Hi, I'm Terry Scheffner, and I am also on the Public Works Committee, so I'm the liaison from that committee.
And Nate?
Hey, welcome, Tad. I'm Nate. I live in Henry Court area, so downtown, kind of by the library in St. Luke's. Welcome.
And Tad, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Tad. I live in the Pheasant Run Apartments on Century Avenue. I walk and use the bus to get most places, although a month ago I did finally buy a folding bike. So now I have all three of the titles of the committee.
All right. Very good. Well, it's a pleasure having you, Tad. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 2, potential bikeway enhancements along Park Street, south of the University Avenue. Mark?
Okay, yeah, and this, I'll be pretty quick on this, and I have a revised recommendation for you. As Katie noted, we have, and I know from talking with Kathy over time as well, that there's been some concerns about speeding on Park Street. Let me just go to the item here. Where are we? There we go. And when we removed the cars, the bike lane, when we installed the bike lane a few years ago, we removed parking from the east side of the road. And it's been wonderful having the bike lanes. I think there's been an significant increase in people who bike on Park Street and Gammon Road. We, of course, turned Gammon from 4 lanes into 2. So that's been, I think, a great addition, but there has been this lingering concern about vehicles either driving too fast and or passing on the right at intersections. And I thought when I saw a couple of weeks ago that the city was starting to paint refreshing pavement markings, I thought maybe this is the time for them to add a buffered bike lane, which I've been seeing increasingly in other communities. Madison has several examples now. And sometimes a buffered bike lane has posts in it called vertical delineators. Here on the right, you can see one without the vertical, and there's some green paint in the distance, which signifies a bike facility. And then here's the vertical separators. My revised recommendation is to suggest that we just proceed with the buffered bike lane concept or focus on that. And we need to do a little more work on the vertical delineators. The reason for that is because I asked our public works folks, I had assumed the street sweeper could fit within 7 feet, but that was an erroneous assumption. And so apparently the width is 102 inches, I think, which is 8.5 feet. So that's not going to work to have the street sweeper because we need to keep the, street sweeper needs to still be able to operate. I was envisioning that the delineators would be removed in the winter so that snow removal wouldn't be a problem. Obviously, there's a labor issue associated with installation and removal, so that's of course always a concern. But the issue with the pavement markings also is that it's about 1,500 feet per side. The public works staff estimates it would take 3 personnel about 5 hours to paint each side. And that depends on traffic. So there's a labor issue involved. And I told them I would convey that to you, that remind you that that's, anytime we add paint, it adds time and effort for the city staff. It is possible to hire the county to paint long lines after chip sealing, but that would add to their workload and we don't know the price on that. So this doesn't come without a cost, but I do think the buffered bike lanes would be a way to visually create more space for bicyclists and narrow the through lane for drivers, which has that effect of trying to really convey that this is a bike lane and not a parking lane or a passing lane. So I just wanted your reaction to this idea. And if you'd rather not take it up now, that's, we can discuss it another time.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? So, Mark, this would be to do this then with the cost factor. Would this be a 23 budget?
Well, I was hoping that as the public works staff applies paint around the city, I was hoping this could be absorbed as part of that workload for this year. But obviously we need to coordinate that with public works staff. Certainly purchase of delineators and installation, that would be a budget decision. Right now, I just wanted to see if you would like staff to further investigate the buffered bike lane idea for Park Street as a solution for the issues we discussed.
How do you handle the emergency vehicles like ambulances if they have to stop in front of a house or something with that?
Well, that's if the delineators go in. That's a valid point. I thought 7 feet was sufficient for that. The spacing, I don't know exactly what the spacing is, but that is a valid point as well. It's something else we need to look at. So I think that's not quite ready for a vote tonight, but the buffered bike lane concept is independent of the vertical delineators.
The vertical delineators, if so needed, could come later, but this would be a start. This would be a start. And so the question on the table is whether or not we want to have staff try to work with Public Works in order to work this into their workload yet this year.
Correct. Thank you.
Dan, I'm not sure you can see my hand raised.
I'm sorry. No, I did not.
I apologize.
No, no need. I missed it. Go ahead, Katie, please.
I think that it's worth trying. If it can be worked into the project at hand this summer, it's absolutely worth trying. And as far as vehicles that have to stop on the road, emergency vehicles, as it stands now, basically a vehicle parks and just uses flashers. Usually, yeah.
Delivery vehicles are the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Katie that I think it's definitely worth looking into.
All right. Can we get a motion to that?
Yeah, this is Katie. I'll move that we add the painted buffered bike lane on Park Street this summer.
So you're directing staff to work with Public Works to have it included in this summer's workload, if at all possible.
I would like, yes,
Okay.
staff to work with Public Works. Yes, if possible. Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Are there any other comments?
That was Ella.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hearing no other comments, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay,
Um,
item number 3 is Metro Transit Network redesign route map.
Yep, and Mike Chickvala from Metro Transit is here in case you have any questions, but I'll just update you by letting you know that Metro has refined the plan, which is now labeled the adopted plan, adopted by the city of Madison. And in discussing this with Metro Transit staff a couple of weeks ago, we felt it would be good to have the city, since we are a contracting partner with Metro, to officially adopt it as well. The concern, you'll recall from previous discussions, was what are we doing, or how is service going to be impacted on the northeast side of the city? And we have worked with Metro, and they have worked with us, which we appreciate, to come up with a plan, a way to make Route Y, which would be this Old Sauk, Gammon Road, Park Street, University Branch to northeast, have that become now an all-day service. As you'll recall, it was originally proposed to be peak hour only, which was a huge concern for us. So that would now be all-day service, albeit a 60-minute service. So it's still a reduction in service for the northeast side, but at least it's hourly service. And some people are close enough to walk in a reasonable distance to this location. The backbone of the service, Route F, would be 30-minute service. Tad, you're going to be delighted to hear that. 30-minute all-day service every day of the week. He's smiling. So that's going to be the backbone, and that hasn't changed. What's changed is the Route Y would be all day 60-minute service. And the next item on the agenda addresses the funding aspect, but we just wanted to get your endorsement of this.
This is the map that we've seen a couple times in the past, and so we've already discussed it. So tonight, what we would do is just be officially through motion adopting this map.
Right, thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, and who is that?
That's Tad.
Thank
Oh,
you,
there you
Tad.
go.
Way
That's
to
how I
go.
have to do it.
Could I get a second to Tad's motion?
I'll
This is-
second it.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. Yeah.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
So it's the motions to endorse the adopted, or to
To
endorse
adopt
the
the plan.
Metro Transit Network Plan.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And
Item
Mike,
number-
Mike, since you're here and took the time to be here, was there anything you want to add? I'm sorry, I should have asked you that earlier.
No, that's okay. Just for the motion in the record, if we could call it the Transit Network Redesign Plan, that's just what we called it for the city of Madison. So if we could just so that there's no confusion. But other than that, no, Mark, you summarized it correctly. I think the only other part of this is the funding aspect, which we think we have a solution for as well. So I think we're talking about that next.
And we are, we'll move on to that. Item number 4, request transit operating assistance under Wisconsin section 85.20.
Actually, since Mike's here, you could actually speak to this, I'm sure, more eloquently than I can. Are you able to, Mike? Otherwise, I'm happy to cover it too.
Either I'm not versed in what you're. Okay, go ahead.
I'll do.
I'll jump in. Feel free to. I'll jump in.
And I wrote it in the staff comments, so I'll just quickly review that. So what our friends in Fitchburg and is it Sun Prairie, I think I've done, is they have applied to the state to be recognized as transit funding agencies. I don't remember the exact term, but it's per section 85.20. So they now get money passed directly to them instead of through Metro Transit, which kind of diluted the effectiveness of the funds. Actually, that's not how I should have said it. It increased the. Let's see, how did I phrase it?
Can you mind if I jump? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. See, I'm
okay.
So
the higher level view here is for state operating assistance for transit systems. They divide the funding into essentially 4 buckets. There's what they call tier C cities, which is very low volume systems, counties and dial-a-ride type systems. Tier B cities, which is smaller transit systems. And then Madison and then Milwaukee. So Madison and Milwaukee are their own special cases. And then everybody else is either a small system or a very small system. So because Madison gets a specific dollar amount budgeted in each budget cycle, the more we share that with our partners in the Madison region, the more it gets watered down. If we keep that just in Madison and then Middleton becomes a tier B city, then they can apply for it. They can get a piece of that tier B funding, which will ultimately be more funding than they would get the way Madison splits up Madison's share. So Middleton benefits on its own, but then the region benefits as well, because overall we're increasing our overall take of the state funding.
Far more eloquent than I could have said. And then the effect of that would be Metro estimates about $100,000 in additional funding to the system, but that would go directly to Middleton to offset our increased cost to operate that Route Y service.
Has Metro agreed to, if that additional funding comes in less than the offsetting increased cost, that they would accept that as the payment? You understand what I'm
I don't
saying?
think I understand.
I didn't understand
So-
it either.
Well, you said it would provide approximately 100,000 in additional funding, roughly offsetting the increased cost. So what I'm saying is, if that additional funding doesn't offset the increased cost, has Madison Metro agreed to accept that additional funding as offsetting the increased cost?
If
Or
the
are we
word
gonna-
roughly, sorry, so if you're saying if the word roughly pencils out to be not quite, is what you're asking, I think.
If the costs were 110,000,
Do we absorb that, or does that?
Yeah.
Okay, so to understand the answer to that question, we would need to understand a little bit more about the detailed scheduling of Route Y and Route F. And the, how the funding breaks out. So I can't answer that question yet. That could be the answer. The other way that we could answer that question is that we might remove, the first trip of the day or the last trip of the day. For example, in the past, as you may know, Middleton had Saturday service, but not Sunday service. So that's sort of an extreme. We don't think we'd have to go that far. But that's sort of another way to address a funding shortfall should it exist. But to go back to what I said previously, having Metro absorb that cost is not out of the question either.
Okay. All right, very good. Are there any questions from the committee?
So what we're asking you to do is to endorse, to recommend to the council endorsing this approach that we would apply to the state. And what I provide in your packet was an example of a cover letter that Fitchburg did earlier this year. And basically direct city staff to take the steps necessary to submit the city's application to qualify for this funding directly as a Tier B city.
And are there any more questions from the committee? If not, do we have a motion to that effect? I would make a motion, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to have the city staff go forward to submit an application to recommend to council that the city submit application for state funding.
This is Katie. I'll second that.
Any questions from anyone else on the committee? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Number 5, we're back to complete streets policy. Mark?
And in your packet is a memo from me. I was hoping to give you a revised resolution. I am swamped with various matters, some of which are unfortunately legal these days, involving issues that the council knows about. So I have not been able to devote as much time as I wanted to, but I thought it would also be helpful for you to react to the Public Works Committee and Plan Commission minutes and provide me with guidance as it relates to overhauling our resolution, which I just now realized I don't think I put it in the packet. So that's my bad. It was in the previous packet. Yeah, that was a mistake on my part. Yeah, it's not there. Sorry about that. But there is also model language. I don't know if any of you took the chance to have the chance to look at this, but there's in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, they have a resolution that was very well regarded nationally. It's a one-page resolution that embraces complete and green streets policies, and then the details are in the Appendix A. And what they did is they organized their resolution according to the organization that is endorsed by the Smart Growth America group, the elements of a complete streets policy. Vision and intent, diverse users, commitment in all projects and phases that the city undertakes, when there would be exceptions authorized, jurisdiction to which these streets, the policy applies, design, land use, context sensitivity, number 7. 8 is performance measures, and that's where I especially want some guidance from you tonight, if possible. Project selection criteria and implementation steps. So that's how it's organized. Ours is kind of more wordy and not, doesn't have headings, if you will, and I can pull that up in a moment. But what I really would like your feedback on is what you heard from the Public Works Plan Commission, as well as performance measures. That's where I really need feedback to craft the final version of our ordinance. And
Our resolution.
Of our resolution. Thank you.
Mark, in this case, who is the Transportation Advisory Committee?
I would recommend that would be.
That would be us.
Yeah, I don't recommend creating any more committees. We've got plenty.
Responsibility would fall to this committee.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up the resolution here, and I'm sorry to the new members for not having that in your packet. This is what I had given you last time. Background whereas clauses, setting the stage, and then the resolved clauses were, I know you can't read it now at this meeting, but it gives you an idea of what the format was. It wasn't neatly categorized by heading and all that, which is what I really like about the Cleveland Heights and other communities that have followed that format.
Mark, how time sensitive is this?
Well, thank you for asking that. Actually, one of the things I want to talk about tonight is scheduling another meeting in a couple of weeks. For 2 reasons. One, now that we have a full committee again, we didn't have one until this last council meeting. So it's great to have a full committee again. Now we can roll up our sleeves. We have 2 items that are pressing. Well, one item that's pressing, and that's developing budget recommendations, which are due in mid-August. So it'd be useful to meet again in a couple of weeks. And then the other thing we could have on that agenda is the complete streets discussion. So I wanted to brief you now on where we're at, and if you wanted to take more time to review the materials, and respond to me individually, which would be fine on an individual basis.
I don't know if this would require a motion, but can make a motion to defer this to the next meeting and have it be the first topic?
Sure. Oops, I just lost all the.
I just think there's a lot on tonight's agenda, and this is an awful lot to consume.
Okay, thank you for that, Jim. We have a motion from Jim to defer this topic to the next meeting. Do we have a second at all? Is there a second to Jim's motion?
I second Jim's motion. This is Ella.
The second Jim motion. Okay, now it's open for discussion. I just have one comment, and Carrie, maybe you can step in too if you wish. During our conversation at Public Works, one of the things that Public Works was asking for is there didn't seem to be any concrete plans. There wasn't the performance measurements that you talked about in the Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland Heights, yeah.
Cleveland Heights, excuse me, the Cleveland Heights. So I'm wondering if when you come back that maybe we have some performance objectives listed.
Yeah, and so here's a list of those on the screen. I think what you have before you right now is your motion to postpone.
Yeah, but I'm going to assume that you're going to, at that point, you're going to bring, I'm just giving you a thought, because I assume that you're going to rewrite the resolution to bring it to our next meeting.
Yeah, I don't want to keep punting this. It's been hanging out there too long.
Okay, so that's just a suggestion to bring forward. Okay, if there's no other comments, Jim's motion was to defer. All those in favor of deferring, say aye.
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 Those opposed? This is deferred to our next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, our next item, number 6, is pedestrian safety in the vicinity of Branch Maywood intersection and Stock Trail School. And Alders, Nelson and Coon. So
Yep.
Katie, would you like to?
I'll pull up a map while we're talking too, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you. So in February, I believe, I was asked to come to the corner of Maywood and Branch in the morning before school to check out the situation. It's a 4-way stop, if I'm recalling. Yeah, it's a 4-way stop, and there's a crossing guard there for school drop off and pickup at the end of the school day. And the crossing guard was, first of all, I watched the crossing guard in action and was so nervous for him in the middle of that 4-way stop. People in a hurry, people not knowing whose turn it is next. And so then inevitably 2 cars pull out. And people passing on the right, trying to turn, and the crossing guard lives at the corner just to the left of your photo is that crossing guard's yard. So he witnesses a lot of stuff all day long. And people do U-turns. They'll drop their kid off and do a U-turn right there at that intersection. People have done high speeds into that and then want to turn right immediately. So they're passing traffic on the right, which is is that a bike lane? There is parking on that side of the street. The crossing guard has requested that some of the parking spots be taken away, which is, I'm just telling you what he's asked for. And so I just want to begin the conversation about how we can make this safer, especially drop off and pick up for school. You know, a lot of little kids have to cross there, and it's a pretty big thoroughfare, and often people are rushing.
Well, I drive that way a lot. Whoops, I just knocked over my water. To go to school sometimes, or like to pick up friends. And I see a lot of cops there, like kind of to the left of the picture, right by that tree or to the right. So I'm surprised that it's still a problem, because I know there's been a lot of cops over there, but maybe like some flashing signs would help on the stop signs. I don't really know what else.
That is one of the suggestions from the crossing guard. He was hoping that the stop signs could flash One of the, if you can see in that exact photo, excuse me, just behind that red car, that
Mhm.
telephone pole that's there,
Yeah.
sometimes that obscures the stop sign. I know that there is a warning back behind that car saying that there's a four-way stop coming or something to that effect. So attentive drivers should know that. But maybe some of the ideas that we talked about earlier with different colors for the pedestrian crossing would, and it might make drivers aware that there's something different right there. But I just wanted to start the conversation, and I want to be able to know that we're at least trying to do something to improve the situation. I know that people parking on the street make it harder for the residents who live on that street to get out of their driveway. But I think there are only a couple of cars, or excuse me, a couple of houses just beyond the school.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that the city is loath to take away more parking, but maybe there's a way we can fix that too.
Hi, this is Emily. I have my hand raised.
I'm sorry, Emily, go ahead.
Thanks. So Katie did a great job introducing that topic. Just so you know, there's a little bit of a hill right on that left side, which is my side. In this picture, Katie's side is the right side. So that's also a hill. I meant going down Branch. There's a little bit of a hill. So they said that parking right after the school, they can't see when they're pulling out. So they don't need to get rid of all the parking, just sort of like maybe that first house, the parking in front of the first house.
The corner house, Emily, or?
No,
first
next to the school. Mhm.
Oh, school.
Yeah, this keeps moving. This is
Yeah, well,
kinda
and this
hard.
it's been, the street view is not working for me lately well, so I'm gonna.
It's okay. I'm going to talk a little bit. So the at the stop sign, they are asking for the flashing signs. They think that will help. The stop sign warning new sign is new, just so you guys know. It was posted basically sometime after February. So I think that's Public Works. They are responding to our asks, but again, that means you have to be attentive. You have to be looking for it. That utility pole does obscure the sign, so a flashing sign would help. Also, on the flip side, on Katie's side, not on this side here, but going the opposite direction, somewhere over there, there is a speeding sign, like how fast somebody is going. And yet there's
It's
nothing
back
on the
toward Century Avenue
Thank you.
before intersection.
Right. And then there's no correlating one on the other side. So it's an interesting thing to have a speeding sign on one side. It's also not kind of in a really great spot. I feel like it's about 18 inches or 24 inches higher than they generally are. Or it's placed back. There's something different about it. It was like just put up on a pole because the pole was there, rather than putting it on the ground and the pole that like a normal one. All right. So then, because one of the comments is that people are speeding down the road, especially heavy trucks, because they're doing deliveries, a lot of cut through during the pandemic. And I think part of the reason neighbors are noticing is that when there was no school for a year at Sauk Trail, they could easily pull out, and they weren't watching for kids, and they weren't doing all the things that you have to do when there's school in session, right? And so they suddenly had an understanding that this is when the kids started coming back, people who were used to cutting through because they're not using Allen anymore, the GPSs are instructing them to take Branch. they're not looking for kids. Their GPS is telling them, go ahead. This is, and drive forth. They don't know that this is a student, intersection. So there is a lot of concern. I have done drop off myself. I have probably done all the things people have complained about. I don't think that's a good thing, but it is a mad dash because drop off is a 10-minute window. The last thing is when you go up Maywood from my district, from Allen going up Maywood and you hit that stop sign, you actually can't see the stop sign until you're almost on it because of the hill and because of that tree right there. And because it hangs low, a lot of people don't see it. Now, the crossing guard actually complained about the people flying through the stop sign going east-west on Branch. No, is that right? Well, going through Branch. And but the people on Maywood have always complained about people flying through the stop sign on Maywood because nobody sees it. So one of the things on Maywood they're asking for is speed bumps. And Sean said to me that if I could get everyone on the road to sign off that they were okay with speed bumps, he would consider them. So I have 2 more signatures to get for that. But we're looking at it from the holistic approach because Katie and I share this road. She's on one side and I'm on the other. So I only get half the complaints because the district is a boundary. So if there's things we could do to help slow traffic, make it pedestrian friendly, lots of kids ride their bikes and walk home because there's apartments. My district is like 80% apartments and the kids from Sauk Trail are walking and biking home. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Emily. Well, this has notoriously been a bad intersection, and anecdotally you hear about it from everyone. I think that I agree with Emily and Katie's concern in that it's, the school is right down the street, so we have to do something. So Katie,
Where were the speed bumps proposed, Katie?
I
On the
think
hill?
Emily, yeah, can you see on Maywood, I think where Mark is indicating, which would be coming up from Allen.
My only thought there is if kids are coming to school on bikes, the speed bumps going up the hill would be pretty tough to traverse. I mean, they may have to walk them then in the road or wherever they're biking. Unless they're on the sidewalks biking.
I wonder if you could, ride more toward the curb. I don't know that the speed bumps would go all the way to the curb. Also, I'm sort of shocked pleasantly to hear that Sean would be open to speed bumps because I thought that with snow plowing, that was kind of never an option around here.
What's the speed limit on Branch?
It's 25 for both streets, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And during the school zone, when there's school kids present, then it would be, it's 15. And those signs do exist in each direction. I didn't know that there wasn't a speed feedback sign northbound. I think, Emily, that's what I heard you say, right? That there's not a speed feedback sign going north?
There's one coming up from Century.
Right.
Up toward University.
Right. I was looking for it on Street View and I couldn't find it, but I know I've seen it.
Actually, I think there is one northbound now. So I get on the bus on Branch, and in the afternoon when I'm coming home, I get off at that intersection specifically so that the 4-way stop sort of slows traffic while I need to cross the street. I did say sort of. I do have a specific opinion regarding flashing stop signs. Most of my issues at that street have actually been with people who stop and admittedly, this is after school, but who stop, look in all other 3 directions and then go, but they didn't look through the pedestrian crossing.
Mhm.
So that's a consistent issue.
Another argument perhaps for that different color for a crosswalk.
Yeah,
Yep. I think there's rules about what color you can use for a crosswalk, but looks like Ken, are you leaving?
Oh, you're muted, Ken.
Ken was waving, so I wasn't sure what he was saying. I think the crosswalk color, I can look into that with our public works staff, but I strongly suspect that white is the preferred color, is the required color. In fact, the green crosswalks that I've been advocating for bike facilities, they are outlined in white actually as well. So I think white is a standard. Nate, yeah.
Mark, I do know that I was recently reading about intersection repair, and yeah, there is a kind of federal no more on the colorful crosswalks.
Okay,
But I think that is only on state or federal routes. I mean, on city roads, you might be able to use, you know, some inlays or something, different colors.
Well,
Is that right? Is that right, Mark?
Well, that's what I was trying to say. I think as long as you have the white outline of the crosswalk, the treatment within it, there seems to be some flexibility, but I'm not an expert on this, so I would have to defer to engineering staff.
Ken, you're muted. I know you've been trying to comment.
Let me see if I can unmute him.
I sneezed.
There you go.
And I'm just as guilty as everybody else, but when I go down Branch Street, I stop and I'm looking, you know, and a lot of times there's bikes coming down, but they won't stop. But the interesting thing about that is from Branch Street turning east on Maywood, that's a new route to get around the intersection at Branch Street and Century Avenue and the big intersection at Allen and Century. It's a lot easier to go that way. You save quite a bit of time because you only have one stoplight. Most of the time on the Allen Boulevard, Century Avenue, you got a left turn lane. So that saves quite a bit of time. I'm afraid you're going to see a lot more traffic going that way. Thank you.
so Katie, how would you like to move forward?
Can we, what is kosher? So do we make a recommendation to Public Works that we would like some changes? How do we do it?
We could make a motion to refer this item to Public Works with a recommendation, whatever your recommendation is.
All right, I will move that we recommend this item to Public Works and suggest, if possible, that we change the color within the white crosswalk. And if we could, we would like to assure that there are speed reading signs on both directions of Branch Street. And thirdly, if we would like to recommend flashing stop signs.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that motion, Katie. Do we have a second to Katie's motion?
Could I add something and see if Katie wants to include it?
Sure, go ahead, Jim.
That would be to make the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit all day on Branch Street.
The only reason, Jim, I'm not willing to do it is that I actually already proposed that to Sean Stowski. And he said that there needs to be reasonable understanding that someone could move through a city at essentially one speed, you know, as far as permanence. a permanent speed limit. You have to be able to be reasonable with drivers so that they're not hit every other street with a different speed limit. So basically ours is about 25 everywhere.
Okay,
Does that make sense? Because I asked for that. I asked for 15 all day. Because that would slow, it would make it not be a popular throughfare, a throughway. So, I mean, I don't know.
no, I understand, don't agree with it, but I understand the reason.
I'm with you.
Okay, we have a motion to refer this to Public Works with those items that Katie has listed, recommendations that Katie has listed.
This is how I captured it. Is this okay? And I took a little license here, Katie, with what you said. I think what you're asking for is enhanced crosswalk design, for example, through use of different or additional color.
Mhm.
Is that what that's essentially what you're
That is what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
okay. Having speed feedback signs in both directions and flashing stop signs at the Branch Maywood intersection.
Yes, and sorry, I want to add one more point. If there's a way we can block off or push out the traffic at that corner for right-hand turns so that they don't try to make a right-hand turn lane for themselves.
So like, in other words, an intersection bump out, which is similar to what Behe was describing earlier. So
Yeah.
basically like a curb extension is the
A
term.
curb extension, right? Yeah.
And I have one other thing, Katie, I don't know if you want to consider in this motion. I thought someone had said like, make sure there's not parking right in front of that stop sign. Did we confirm that there is no parking right there?
Yeah.
Just so it's more visible.
Yeah. Perfect.
So have greater, have a larger no parking zone, a longer no parking zone around the intersection. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, but Katie, feel free to.
No,
take
it's
it or
perfect.
not.
Perfect. Let's complete our list. Yeah.
Can I make one comment too, that maybe there should be some outreach to the parents who pick up their kids there? It seems like a lot of these issues are developing, by the parents picking up their kids. I know, and I've driven through there during school days and it's a madhouse. There's kids running all over. And a lot of the parents are there to get their kids are in a rush. That maybe some outreach to that school system of, what's coming down the pike and what they can do to eliminate the problems. Because a lot of that's just developed by a lot of the parents picking up their kids.
This is Emily. On the parking piece, the house at the intersection and her neighbors are okay with that where the parking is. The parking issue is actually the house next to the school because it's on a slight hill and the people who are trying to exit can't see like who's coming.
You had it there,
So-
Mark.
I know that it's just giving me trouble.
And for the signage, I would just like it for the signs to be appropriately placed. And I say that because I'm thinking of that speeding, the one with the feedback. I don't think it's a standard spot. I think it was just mounted when they had a chance. And the same with the stop sign ahead. I think they just put it on one of the poles that was already there. So just confirming that it's in the proper place.
So where the enhanced crosswalk design, was that just at that four-way intersection or was that along Branch Street in general, like every crosswalk?
Well, I'd love every crosswalk, but I'll take it at that intersection is if that's where we can start the trend. We'll consider it just like our mini roundabout at Bristol and Elmwood. We'll see how successful this can be.
Okay. Okay,
So I understand all of this costs money, so I don't want them to think we haven't considered that. But the kids' safety, I think, is a really important one.
and then we add some, I'm just trying to help you make your case. Installing curb extensions to reduce pedestrian time in crosswalks. Is that what you're getting at?
Curb
Yeah.
extensions to reduce
Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, let's
cars.
just,
We don't want cars to turn
I-
that
I-
area.
There's various benefits of it. I'll just keep it simple.
Thank you.
And then making sure there's speed feedback signs in both directions. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll fix this later.
okay, so we had a motion by Katie. Was there a second to Katie's motion?
I'll second it. This is Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. So we have a motion and a second. If there's no other further questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Did I spell your name right, Carrie?
You did. Nice job.
Excellent.
Okay, we're now to staff updates. Mark, number 1, North Mendota Trail.
Oh, good. Wasn't sure where we were on the agenda. So I have good news to report. As of 5:05 today, we have we are confident we're going to get all the easements for the North Mendota Trail. We've always thought we would, but they actually wrote to me saying that their lender, Dan, has signed off on it. This is the Arbor Lakes folks.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's, we don't have them in hand, but we're one step closer yet again. What I'm talking about is the easements on the northeast side to make sure that we have the permission from the property owners to widen the path. Yesterday, there was a pre-construction meeting with the contractor that's been hired, Badgerland Excavating, as well as utilities and city street crew, utility crew, to make sure that we're all on the same page with this project. They indicated that the contractor indicated he intends to start in mid-August, but he'll get us a more specific date by the end of next week. That's their goal, is to start mid-August and be done by November 1st. We are going to have a media event on July 28th at noon, whereby we celebrate the progress we've made to date, thank the property owners who've been cooperative, and look ahead to the next phase. We are very grateful for Dane County contributing $1 million to make this happen this year. So the county exec will be present, the mayor will be present, giving remarks, and Dan, I understand we're going to have a wonderful MC there.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah, some guy named Dan Ramsey.
Yeah.
Hosting the event.
Yeah, and so things are coming together. Really happy to report. It's been a long time coming, but I think we're going to have a path done this year. I will add that I have started reaching out to making a concerted effort to try and line up a contractor to do some green pavement markings. I won't proceed with that until I get authorization from you at a future meeting. but I'm doing some background investigation right now to come up with a proposal because we have some budget available to enhance the crosswalk when it crosses, I'm sorry, to enhance the path as it crosses intersections, including driveways. I think that's all I had. Dan, was there anything else you wanted me to cover?
Nope, I think that pretty much covers it. Arbor Lakes is very good news as that is our very last easement agreement. So we're very pleased with that.
Yeah, and I knew it was coming, but it's been taking months to.
Yeah, it was just a
Yeah.
long process.
Yeah. And then also we're going to have a change order for the paving contractor to pave the segment that's been unpaved this whole time as the ground settles between Goodwill and Branch Street. That will be a change order in the future that you'll see.
Yep, and we'll bring that forward at a later date.
Yep. The next item, are there any other questions on that topic?
Let's go to our resolution.
Yeah, so this was something that the council endorsed. When was this? Just last month. So we are trying to position ourselves to take advantage of additional funding opportunities through the Transportation Alternative Program, TAP grant, with the funding coming from bipartisan infrastructure law. So the council endorsed this resolution. That's just here for informational purposes. So hopefully that leads to some additional funding for the city. Dan, did you have anything to add to that?
Nope, it's just another way of the city looking to find ways to fund some of these projects that we want to do in this kind of tough budget environment.
Right. And then the last thing, I didn't really have anything formal. I was both pleased and disappointed. Maybe disappointment isn't the right word, surprised that we didn't have higher turnout for the Bike Week event. We had some really great partnership this year with sponsors, Mead and Hunt, what are they called? Not SEH. Yeah, SEH, above the Mustard Museum, sponsored twice, and Willie Street Co-op partnered with us, as did the Sustainability Committee. We had several dozen people stop by on the nice weather days at a station at the corner of Old Middleton Road and Stonefield Road. We had really bad weather on one day, so that had fewer than 10 people, and we bailed on that station that day. But what I was surprised by was that we didn't have more, especially with the pandemic. I had sensed that more people were biking, but what I came to learn was that Old Middleton Road has been under construction. And I think that was affecting people's routes. So I would like to think that that was just a one-time issue. Overall, the people who stopped by were very supportive, very friendly, very grateful for the city recognizing and celebrating bicycling in that fashion. So I wholeheartedly, in fact, two of our sponsors said they want to do this again next year. So we definitely have support for it. Hopefully we grow the event next year. Anything? Oh. That's on Katie's end, I'm guessing. That is Pete saying it's time to adjourn. We do have something else to talk about quickly. Meeting schedule. Since we now have two new members, Carrie and Tad, it would be good opportunity to discuss what your meeting time preferences are. I know 5 o'clock was challenging for one member today, at least one member. And so normally we wouldn't meet as early as 5 o'clock. I had a commitment this evening at 7:30, so I kind of steered the time a little bit, but I'm looking for your feedback. Wednesdays and Thursdays are really the two options that work best. At some point, we'll be coming back to in-person meetings, I would think. And conference room availability is better on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And some of the council members have meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays. So that's why we would look at Wednesday or Thursdays as options. Not the first week of the month though, because then I have other meetings I staff. So I guess if you can tell me if there's any feedback for future meetings or future events, agenda items, I'm sort of loosely covering it under this topic. It's we don't have to make a decision here, but if you could give me your feedback as to what you'd like for time and day, I would appreciate it.
Mark, why don't you send out, I think maybe the best way to do this is, why don't you send out a email to everybody asking, because some, I know Katie, you might have some Wednesday night meetings. I don't know what your meeting schedule is on Wednesdays, but there could be some conflicts that way, so that we can get an idea of before we have our next meeting, because we want to schedule one in 2 weeks. If you could send an email out to everybody, and then you can get a kind of at least a consensus, and we can discuss it at our next meeting.
What about time of day? Is there something, Tad, I don't mean to pick on you, but is 5:30, is that the earliest you can make it generally?
So it was this week being strange. I'm normally remote on Wednesdays, and so 5 wouldn't actually be that big of a hassle. But this week I have new work study students to onboard, and so I'm in the office every day. So as long as I'm actually remote, 5 is fine.
Is the preference to avoid the dinner hour, not start at 5, and would you rather start at 7? I'm asking people generally this question.
I really like starting at 5 and going to 7. It's kind of in the dinner hour, but you have the whole day, I guess, kind of thing.
Okay. And anybody else with that feedback? But like Dan said, I'll send out a calendar and you can respond that way too. But I'm probably sending, the way those calendars work, I think it's for specific days. So what I'll do is I'll send one out for the last week of July. Is anyone gone the last week of July?
I am Mark. I will be out.
Okay.
I will be too.
Okay. All right. Well, rather than focusing on it now, I'll send out some options. Maybe we'd be looking into, I don't see, the first week of August is then the first week. Maybe it'd even be the second week of August.
Are these generally once a month?
Well,
That's what we're going to get to.
That's what we're going to get to, and that's why I want to make this. We had talked about 4th Wednesdays in the past, and then we kind of got away from that. We didn't meet every month, and that frankly was largely the result of my workload. I just didn't have the time to staff this as much as I'd like to, would have liked to, but we are focusing more on ped bike issues. There's been some shifts in our staffing of committees, so I have more time for this, and we want to prioritize this.
Got it.
So monthly meetings, we want to pick a regular date and time.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Hey,
So
Mark,
Wednesday-
sorry, one quick thing on staff updates number 2. I think that maybe that's the resolution number, but it looks like a year. I think it's 2022 to 2024, right?
Oh, that's a resolution number.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The federal government does not commit to 12 years of funding.
No, they don't. Not for bikes.
Too bad, huh? Okay, do you have anything else, Mark?
No, that's it. Thank you for your patience, and sorry at the beginning, I guess there was a glitch with the meeting where you guys were on your own for 2 minutes. I apologize for that.
No worries, we got through it. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
This is Carrie. I'll motion to adjourn.
This is Katie.
Motion. In a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
You all.
Have a good evening.
Thanks again, Bihi, for the presentation.
Good night, everyone.